Okay, so sorry if there's any background noise, but I hope everyone is managing in these very very strange and uncomfortable times that we're living in. Hope everyone is taking care of themselves. Hope everyone is taking care of their families, and I'm hoping that this ends quickly so we all can get back to our regular lives. But on to the subject for today. A question was asked on First Take today. As you can see, did the Browns make a mistake drafting Baker Mayfield with the number one pick? Now, if we're just talking over the past two seasons, we're not going any further into the future. We're just going off of the past two seasons versus the quarterbacks that were drafted after him. Yes, I believe they made a mistake. But you're always smarter in hindsight. When the draft is going on, no one knows who's going to be. See, people say he's a surefire superstar. Like, you never know. You never know who's going to be great. You never know who's going to transcend. You never know who's going to be a major disappointment. You never know any of that. When you're drafting based on college statistics, college film, and your expectations for this player, and you go off of what the coaches say about this player, what different people in his personal life says about this player. You're going off of, does he have a criminal history? What is his behavior like off the field? You're going off of all these different things that does not constitute a winner on game day. None of these things have a factor in whether or not the guy could get the job done, because we've seen incredibly talented players fall short far too often, especially first round picks. So, did they make a mistake drafting Baker Mayfield? I'm going to say yes, because I think out of Baker Mayfield being drafted to the Browns, out of Sam Darnold being drafted to the Jets, out of Josh Allen being selected by the Bills, and out of the Josh Rosen situation when he was drafted by the Cardinals and then shipped to Miami, I think all those teams made mistakes because Lamar Jackson was drafted 32 overall, and this kid is a he's the defending MVP. Okay? Yes, everybody made a mistake. Sorry. Everybody made a mistake, and going into the draft, Lamar Jackson was the most overlooked. Everybody was talking about how great Josh Allen is, or, is Baker a guy that can get it done because of his antics on the field in Oklahoma? Is Sam Darnold good enough? Will he be the number one pick? And Josh Rosen and his attitude was a major question mark for people, but you couldn't deny how great he was with throwing the ball. And everybody was ignoring the running back at quarterback over there constantly being overlooked. And the Baltimore Ravens had the balls. The Baltimore Ravens is one of the greatest organizations in professional football history. When it comes to player management, drafting, player development, they are great at it. Because for them to take a risk in the first round I believe it was Ozzie Newsome who drafted him or made the suggestion to draft him. I think that was such a such a ballsy move that paid off. But he was overlooked. I think everybody missed with Lamar Jackson. But let's get to it.
When there was all this hype regarding the Browns and that they were going to go to the Super Bowl, you were always pessimistic about this team and all these personalities being together, and it didn't pan out as expected.
Because we've seen it in the past. If anybody is old enough, or if anybody could remember, back when the Philadelphia Eagles in 2004? There were two different teams. There was the 2004 team where they had Javon Curse, they had Darren Howard, they had a T.O., Brian Westbrook, Donovan McNabb, Brian Dawkins. Everybody was looking at that team like it was some ridiculously talented team that could not lose. And then there was another team, I believe, in 2009, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there, 2010. 2012. It was one of those the year that they got Vince Young, and Vince Young was the backup quarterback to Michael Vick, and they had all these different guys. Nani Asamoah, they had Asante Samuel, they had all these different dudes. They brought them in. People coined that team a super team, and that team was a major disappointment. I mean, I don't even think they made the playoffs. So we've seen this happen before, where a team will stack so much talent on their roster that there's no way they can't get to the Super. They're Super Bowl favorites, and they've never won it. They've never won it, and they haven't been there recently. So how can you just expect them to get? This is the Jacksonville Jaguars thing all over again. And yes, I'm going on another tirade, but this is what I'm sorry, I lost thought for a second. This is the problem that I had with Jacksonville, because Jacksonville was one of those teams that just got hot at the right time, and their defense was so smothering. They were the Seattle Seahawks defense of 4 or 5 years ago. That team where they had the 2 or 3 years where they were just the best team, or the best collection of players that just played well together. Okay? And I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars is somewhere underneath them, but they're not on par because that team was a Super Bowl champion. But they were somewhere around there where the hype was bigger than the actual team itself, like the chemistry of the team, the way, the longevity of the team was a lot less than the hype that was surrounding the team. And that's the problem I had with Jacksonville. They never won. You're dependent on Blake Bortles, a guy that everybody viewed as a disappointment, but because he played well against New England, now we're all looking at Blake Bortles like, oh my God, this kid could be good. Actually, every time one of these quarterbacks come out and they have a great game against New England, everybody starts looking at that quarterback. Like, that's what happened with Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler beat New England when he became a starter in Denver and went out into free agency that following offseason and got a massive fucking contract off of that one game. Got a massive contract.
Do you think it was a mistake for the Browns to draft him 1 overall?
Yes, because Lamar Jackson is showing up everybody. So,
I think so. And that's not to sit up there and act like Baker Mayfield can't play, because I know that he can play. He's not a scrub. But me personally, I thought that Sam Darnold might have been the better fit.
I don't know. Because if we remember the quarterback that they did have in place in Cleveland, initially was Tyrod Taylor. Is Baker Mayfield Tyrod Taylor's archetype at quarterback? Is it the type that Baker Mayfield is? What about Sam Darnold? Do you think that Sam Darnold could do any of the things that Tyrod could do? I mean, I would say Lamar is more of a Tyrod type of player, but an argument could be made that that Lamar might not have been as good going to Cleveland as he was going to Baltimore, because they invested so much into his success. And they wanted to make sure, like, look, if we got this kid, we need to invest every resource we have into making sure he is successful. And they went out and they got Mark Ingram. They drafted, I believe, another tight end, which gave them 3 because they already had 2 on the roster. They drafted Marquise Brown. I mean, the offensive line got better because of the drafts that they've had in previous years. And the defense, they went out and got Earl Thomas. They just kept stacking it. Baltimore's defense is always great. My bad. It's always great. Their defense is always great. Their defense is always going to give you some of the best defensive football in the NFL. So all you needed really was a quarterback that can get the job done. And I'm not saying that he's this great player, because I still believe that he's massively overrated. But if we're talking about the quarterbacks that was drafted in 2018, Lamar Jackson is a far better quarterback than any of those guys have been thus far. And to be honest, I think that he at the end of his career, just like at the end of all of their careers, I think he will go down as the more successful one.
2 years younger. He's about 2 to 3 inches taller. He's bigger. That definitely has something to do with it. But more importantly, he doesn't talk nearly as much as Baker Mayfield, inciting dudes to come.
Yeah. Was people talking about Baker talking so much his rookie season when he was able to get them to what, 7 wins, 8 wins, somewhere around there? They were talking about this kid. He was the future. Nobody was talking about his mouth because he had mouth his rookie season too. Just nobody was talking about it. But then when they started losing in his second season, that's when people, oh man, he's talking to. He got to stop talking in those press conferences. Yeah, well, that's what he's been doing. Why would somebody change what they've been doing just because they're losing? This is just like the Antonio Brown thing, man. Like, if Brown is really the guy that we all are looking at him being, I mean, this dude has been like this for a while. Now that he had a falling out with Pittsburgh and his career was essentially over, now everybody's noticing it like it was this big thing. But nobody was talking about it 3 or 4 years ago when this dude was lighting up the league. It's like when the things go south, when things are bad, when things are not gravy, then everybody noticed the negatives. Nobody noticed the negatives when you're winning. Nobody noticed the negatives when you're playing at your absolute best. They notice the negatives when the production isn't there, when the winning isn't there. That's when they notice this stuff.
At him in an even more ferocious fashion just to shut him the hell up. And that's what Baker Mayfield does. It's great for us as media members who get...
Because y'all love drama, y'all love storylines, y'all love narratives, and this is what y'all feed off of. If a player lost a foot in the middle of the field, you will fake sincerity, but it is great for y'all because then y'all have a story. I was watching ESPN last night at like 3 in the morning. 3 in the morning. And I'm watching the ticker at the bottom of the screen. And because there are no sports going on now, they are advertising, what was it? The ticker had WrestleMania storylines on the ticker, which I've never seen before. They had WrestleMania storylines on the ticker, like who won what title, what happened here, what happened there. And then also I saw NBA basketball player NBA 2K tournament results, which I didn't even know that the NBA players held a tournament. Well, now they have a tournament going on, and that's on the ticker as well. So they're bored. They have nothing to do. They have nothing to talk about. They are running out of things to talk. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring up old, montage of different segments that they've done over the years and talk about, oh man, let's relive some of our greatest moments on the show. Because they're running out of things to talk about. So they're trying to find I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to the Antonio Brown situation and start harping on that again because they're running out of things to talk about.
To commentate and pontificate about a lot of different things. But the reality is that if you're Baker Mayfield or you're the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield finds himself as the quarterback, putting them in more bad situations than good. We know that he threw 21 touchdowns last year. We know that he completed less than 60% of his passes. Sam Darnold certainly didn't have that issue. By the way, Sam Darnold was 7-6 in his 13 starts. We know what...
Yeah, but 7-6 isn't good enough to get you to the playoffs. And let's not act like Sam Darnold is doing some great things over in New York because they're not winning nothing. They are not winning anything. And to be honest, 7-6 is disappointing. With this being, your second year? You just got a pretty good running back from Pittsburgh who a year, 2 years ago, some people consider Le'Veon Bell to be the best running back in the NFL. Even though I thought that was laughable, but people kept saying it. So you got that guy, and you have Robbie Anderson and Quincy Enunwa on the outsides. You mean to tell me that you can't play better, or you can't win more than 7-6 with the defense being, I would say, better? Even though they didn't play better, but the talent on the team was better. You went out and got C.J. Mosley. You have what's his name, Alvin Williamson, the middle linebacker. You mean to tell me y'all can't win more? You have Jamal Adams out there who is becoming one of the best safeties in the NFL, if not the best safety in the NFL. but you're not winning anything. 7-6 is laughable compared to the amount of talent you have on that team. So how is he better because he's winning more? Please.
Baker Mayfield's record was he won only 6 games last year. He had more commercials with Progressive than he did actual wins. That's an app.
And I hate that. I hate that whole notion that he had more commercials than wins. Because if we're being honest, a lot of players, especially in the NFL, have more commercials than wins. More commercials than... Look at Blake Griffin of the NBA, right? Look at Blake Griffin in his first couple of years. Bro, he probably, and this is an over-exaggeration, but I just find it funny to think about. This dude had more commercial spots, had more commercials running consecutively. I mean, I could not watch TV for a half hour without seeing a Blake Griffin Kia commercial. This dude had more commercials than damn near syndication than anybody else. He had more commercials running than games he's played. And I know it's an over-exaggeration, but it is close to being accurate, and it is funny to think about. And I think it's stupid because the reason why Baker has that many commercials is because he's marketable. He's a young kid who women, I would believe, find attractive, even though I think that he's a really short, hobbit-looking fella. But, it's whatever. And he has a mouth on him. He has charisma. Charisma. You can have both attractive charisma and, I don't know, not so attractive charisma. And I believe he has the not so attractive kind of charisma. I think that he's a gloating blowfish that talks more than he's actually able to produce. And with him playing in Oklahoma, which, I mean, you can't really take his Heisman winning season at Oklahoma at face value, because if we're being honest, they've had already had a Heisman Trophy winner come out of there. Well, no, after him, they had another Heisman Trophy winner come out of there. And Jalen Hurts probably would have won the Heisman if it wasn't for Joe Burrow striking it hot when he did. So, I don't know, bro. I mean, when you look at everything in hindsight, the signs are all there that maybe Baker was probably one of the most overhyped players in that draft. So, but, people love their storylines, man.
Absolute truth. Just check it out. I'm talking about different versions of Progressive commercials. He had more of those than wins on the NFL football field last season. That's just pathetic. And so I look at it right now and I just say to myself, Baker Mayfield has upside. He can play. He's not a scrub. But when I think about the quarterback position, Dan and Max, what I think about is not just your ability to throw the football, as I've said on repeated occasions. It's your ability to lead and to galvanize folks too.
Some people aren't leaders, and I'm tired of people looking at quarterbacks to be leaders. I'm tired of it. Sometimes your leaders aren't necessarily at the quarterback position. When you look at the Golden State Warriors, man, and I've said this before, man, when you look at the Golden State Warriors, if you ask any casual fan who just loves the well-known players and doesn't pay attention to anything else, who's the leader on the Warriors team, they would say Steph Curry, or they probably would have said Kevin Durant when Kevin was there. But if we're being honest, man, Draymond was the leader of that team, man. He was, even if he was just the emotional leader to get those guys revved up. He was like the hype man. But he was the guy, man, that led them in the battle, man. If we're being honest, he may not play well. He may not play good at all. But he's the leader, man. I mean, his game, it was important to what they did. So, I don't know, man. I'm tired of us looking at quarterbacks like they're supposed to be these leaders. The leader should be the guy that has the most respect in the locker room. Like, when you look at the Arizona Cardinals, I'm pretty sure most people would assume that Kyler Murray is the leader. He's the guy that everybody's looking to. No, Larry Fitzgerald, man. Larry Fitzgerald is the leader of that team. Now, when Larry retires or leaves, then maybe it gets passed down to Kyler. But to be a leader, man, it takes a certain attitude. It takes certain commitments to the game that not every player is willing to make those sacrifices. And it takes accumulated goodwill in the locker room. It takes, that kind of effort and energy that makes people say, well, you know what? I kind of don't feel like practicing, or I kind of feel like I kind of feel like not going 100% on a Wednesday. But I see that Tom Brady's doing it, or I see that Drew Brees is doing it. So I got to do it, man. I got to do it, man, because I don't want to let those guys down. And I don't think that I get that feeling from Baker, man. Baker is the guy that you, after the game or after practice, you go to the bar and you fucking chug back a few of them, playing pool, making a bunch of inappropriate jokes, and then that's just it. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that can counsel you through any kind of mental issues that you're going through to kind of get you ready for the game. Which I would think that a leader, knowing who his people are that he's going into battle with, will be able to not manipulate, but maybe alleviate some personal struggles to get you prepared. And I don't think that Baker's that guy. I don't think that Baker's that guy you can depend on. I kind of went a little longer with that part than I wanted to, but I had to explain it enough that I was making sense with what I was saying. But let's go.
Follow you. I think when you look at Baker Mayfield as an individual talent, you know he can play. He's not a scrub. And you recognize what he did in college. He's a Heisman Trophy winner, for crying out loud, and walked on and did all of those things. Got a lot of guts, a lot of moxie. But when you talk about leading troops on this level, I just think that he falls flagrantly short at this particular moment in time because of his immaturity to deal with scrutiny that he invites. And all of that comes into consideration when I think about the quarterback position. And I think that when you look at Sam Darnold in the New York market, having conducted himself the way that he has conducted himself, even though he's younger, he has proven that at least thus far, the Cleveland Browns made the wrong selection.